Does Tyler Shough have enough weapons to succeed in 2025? This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Now, before you get up in arms, let's just forget about the Tyler Shough part. Let's just say, do the Saints have enough weapons to succeed in 2025? We're talking playmakers, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking wide receiver, running back, tight end. Pause.
I want to talk a little bit about the weapons on this offense because they have made a concerted effort to invest very heavily on the offensive line, which I think is great. But they have not invested very heavily at wide receiver. You've got Olave, who's a first-round pick, Shaheed, who you kind of found as a diamond in the rough. You go pick up Brandon Cooks off the scrap heap, and at tight end, I think you're okay. Where are you on the weapons that Tyler Shough's going to have to use with this offense?
I don't think the weapons are that bad. I mean, I don't think – I'm not going to sit here and say that they're, the top of the NFL or the best you got. But when you look around at some other teams that are below average or middling or however you want to compare with the Whodats, I don't think it's that bad at all, especially when you consider what Kellen Moore is going to want to do with his offensive philosophy, which is run the football, control the line of scrimmage. I would argue we are better set up to do that than most of the other teams in our comparable kind of range. And if you look at Alvin Kamara, if you look at the offensive line, if you look at Eric McCoy, Talise Falaga, you look at, Kelvin Banks, hopefully is pretty productive since he was a top 10 pick, but then you throw in a little lanyap, as my guy Ross Jackson would say, but you throw in a little lanyap of Chris Olave, who is a tried and true elite level receiver. I mean, he's a guy who you kind of know what you're going to get if he's out there healthy. Obviously, injuries, you never know, but better than most, right? So let's take a look at some other depth charts, just kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here. So this is the Panthers. This is a great comparison. Divisional opponent, team kind of pseudo in that below average range, possibly on the rise. You got Chuba Hubbard, Ted McMillan, but we have no idea what we're going to get out of him. Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, Hunter Renfrow. Last I saw, he was working on the sewer and water board up there in North Carolina. Tommy Tremble. If Tommy Tremble walked in here right now, I wouldn't know who he was. All right. So Carolina, not that impressive as far as their depth charts, as far as their playmakers. Certainly, I wouldn't say any better than the New Orleans Saints. Or the Titans, Tennessee Titans. And again, these are teams that are currently favored heavily against the Saints. Like the Titans are 3.5-point favorites. The Panthers, they're favorites on the road in New Orleans. So these are perfect comparisons. Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Treylon Burks, Tajay Spears, the Tulane product, Van Jefferson, Okonkwo. I mean, you could argue, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett better than Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. Okay, I would argue that Alvin Kamara is better than Tony Pollard, right? So, and then of course you go into the offensive line, but we're really just talking about playmakers here. And then the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson, Stephon Diggs. Last time I saw him and Cardi B were on a yacht out in the middle of Miami, so I guess that's what that questionable's for. Demario Douglas, Mac Hollins, Hunter Henry. I'll take Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson over a lot of this. And if not outright better, then they're in the same world. So, I don't think the Saints have a playmaker group that you should be really overly concerned about going into the season.
I think whoever the quarterback is, they need to get at least one more possession receiver. I mean, look, Brandon and Olave are the same receivers. They're the same size, essentially. They present speed down the field. And so does Rashid Shaheed. You got three guys who can burn down the field, but you desperately need a possession receiver. And that possession receiver, to me, isn't on this football team.
I've pushed back on that a little bit, too, where do you really, is it that important? What if it's Juwan Johnson? Do you really need the big body possession receiver as bad as this narrative is that, I don't know if it's as end-all be-all as it's being made out to be.
I mean, unless they're counting Juwan Johnson to be their tweener, to be able to do the tight end and play a little bit outside and play some receiver. But they need to find somebody. I mean, it just goes without saying. It's just like, hey, maybe they need to find a veteran quarterback. They need to find a veteran receiver. when they get closer to training camp or when they're in training camp, because I just don't know, Hunt, how it's going to work. I mean, your next receiver in that mix would be Bub Means, Cedric Wilson. I just don't think that's really, Dante Pettis, I just don't think that's really, sexy enough for me in terms of possession receivers. You need to have that go-to guy over the middle of the field.
Like who? Like how many teams, and it is what it is, but how many teams are really talking about their 4th, 5th, 6th receivers?
Yeah, I mean, that just sounds like a practice squad, which is basically what it is. I mean, Juwan Johnson, I was a little surprised at that contract. What did you think when they re-inked him?
Yeah, I think it was a bit much. And if you really want to make some money, go play for the Saints. Apparently, a lot of guys get a lot of big contracts to make you kind of say, okay. But,
So I was surprised, and I've said this a few different times, but I was surprised about Juwan Johnson's contract. But I think if you look at it through the lens of it being that kind of tweener contract, of being that half wide receiver, half tight end, you can see like, okay, maybe the money makes sense in that way. It certainly wouldn't make sense if you just played him as a tried and true tight end, how he's been the last couple of years. But I don't think you give him that money without there being a plan behind it. So that's why I kind of trust Kellen Moore, that he sees something in Juwan Johnson that we're not seeing, just outside looking at that contract.
Good for him. It ain't, it's not his fault. They gave it to him. So I think that, if he can produce like he did a couple years ago, I guess I'll kick that salary and then they'll look like geniuses. So I guess we'll see if he can return to 2 years ago form and shape, and when he had a pretty solid season, and it's fine by me. I mean, I just think that they are what they are, Hunt. I mean, they're 4 to 6 wins right now. That's the problem. It's just the 4 to 6 wins. They are what they are.
Well,
if they can go pick up a possession receiver, that's amazing. And I just don't know. I'm trying to spin this the best way possible, but I think I'm trying to be a realist. I'm not going to be able to talk you into 9 wins, 10 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect anybody to. I don't expect anyone to say, oh yeah, this is definitely an 8, 9, 10 win team. But I think if you look at the other teams that we just looked at, like the Panthers, the Titans, the Patriots, whatever, there is this air of, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. Okay, we have we feel good about this. And then if you look at the Saints through the same lens, they're kind of doing the same thing. I don't understand why the Titans, for example, are a team where it's like, okay, yes, this team is obviously upward trajectory. This team's obviously good. This team's obviously doing this. And then you look at the Saints, you're like, nope, LOL, dumpster fire. Or the Panthers. Am I supposed to believe because of a handful of games where Bryce Young wasn't god-awful that they've turned a corner and they're going to all of a sudden be threatening for the NFC South? When I look at the Panthers, I look at the Saints, I don't see anything different as far as I don't see anything that would make the Panthers stand out as a roster that is that much better.
I can't do that. 8 wins. Maybe I can talk to you 6 or 7.
6, 7, 8 is where we landed. We did a kind of a schedule prediction or whatever, and that's about right. I think that is okay. That is 6, 7, 8 is the range that I believe is the most likely outcome for the Saints this season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be shocking, just like 9, 10, 11, 12 would be shocking. All right, so I feel like sometimes in this world, or in the world of analysis, they're afraid of that middle ground, and it's always blow it up, worst team in the world, or over promising and saying, oh yeah, this team can win the division, this team can win the NFC, this team's 11 win, 12 win, Tyler Shough MVP, this. It's okay to step back and say, yeah, this team's kind of on the upswing. We're shedding some cap, we're shedding some older players, we're in a pseudo organic rebuild. Okay, this year might be 6, 7, 8, and then next year might be 7, 8, 9. It's okay to have that kind of slow ascent.
Are they going to use Alvin Kamara the same way they did last year, where he's just doing everything? I realize there were injuries involved in that, but I just can't imagine at this stage in his career that's the best thing.
I mean, Hunt, you don't think that Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed being back might have something to do with that? You don't think that maybe Kellen Moore being here might change how he was used? You don't think maybe because that it was Alvin Kamara and Dante Pettis and MVS and Bub Means and Mason Tipton, you don't think that maybe that's why Alvin Kamara was utilized the way he was last year? I mean, yes, obviously things are going to be changed. Now, with that being said, Alvin Kamara is definitely the engine to this offense. And we are at our best when we are running through him, just like the 49ers are at their best when they're running through Christian McCaffrey, just like the Eagles are at their best when they're running through Saquon Barkley. We are going to be at our best if Alvin Kamara is the focal point of that team. I'll go ahead and tell you this. Keep a watchful eye out on Alvin Kamara's rushing yard season total whenever those numbers pop. Last year, it was comically low. It was 641 yards or something. We gave it out, on this channel. A lot of viewers cashed tickets in like week 8. All right, cashed big, heavy tickets. He was injured last year towards the end of the year. If they mess around and drop a total around 800, 750, somewhere in there, ladies and gentlemen, sell the car, max it out. Okay, we're running to the sports book. I cannot wait to see what they open that number up at. But yeah, I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a huge year. Better offensive line, offensive guy who likes to run the football. Kamara had success last year with a way worse roster around him. Would have had his first 1,000-yard season. I think Kamara could be in for a big-time year.
No, but I do think that they want to try to get some good mileage out of him. I do think they're going to have to rely on what they hope is a healthy Kendre Miller and Devin Neal to be able to give him some, rest and be able to do a little bit more like he can do. I do think that they want to line him up and outside. They do want to line him up in the slot. They do want to make sure to get him out of the backfield and throw him a few passes. But they're going to have to be careful how they use him. They can't really run him into the ground if this is the so-called still another rebuilding season and they give him one more year in 26 and they really kind of go for it when the cap opens up for them and they have hopefully another solid draft class. But they need him, but they just need to be careful how they use him. If you understand what I'm saying, they're going to have to really rely on the other two guys behind him to make sure that, they can kind of somewhat help him carry the load so he's not like getting beat up for 17 games.
Anything stand out on the offensive side from OTAs? I know that this is y'all's first kind of real look at Kellen Moore and certainly of Tyler Shough.
Well, I'll be the first to admit, I told you that they should keep Fuaga at left tackle and move Banks to right tackle. And Dylan Randunce would play left guard. I'm completely wrong in every one of those.
I mean, it's kind of a victory lap for me because we said exactly what happened. But every time I hear it, it's like, how would that make any sense at all? You have a guy who in Fuaga, who can play right tackle, who played there his entire career up until last season. You have a guy in Banks who has never played right tackle. He's taken every snap at left tackle. In what world does it make sense to move Banks to right tackle instead of moving Fuaga to right tackle? Just like, in what world does it make sense to take Banks, 9th overall, and say, you know what? We're going to play Trevor Penning at right tackle, even though we declined his 5th-year option, even though he hasn't been great there. And we're going to make either you or Fuaga or whoever else play left guard, and we're going to move all the stuff around. Wouldn't it make much more sense to say, okay, well, let's move Penning to left guard? I mean, the writing was on the wall from day one.
Every single one of those I was wrong. It's Banks at left tackle, Fuaga at right, and Trevor Penning was playing left guard. So they're going to give it a shot with Penning at guard. And look, it might work out. I know he was in Philly for 1 year, Kellen Moore, and they moved Mekhi Becton inside, and it worked out perfectly. And maybe that's what they're hoping to get out of Trevor Penning. This was last year with the Saints. They didn't think of his 5th-year option. So if they make him look successful at guard, they look like, brilliant coaches by doing it. I think, look, why not? You give it a chance. You give it a shot this year.
Don't forget, there's a financial component to this. So just so you know, when you decline the option, that means you're not going to try. The 5th-year option is a chance to extend the contract without renegotiating at the current whatever position salary. Okay, they declined the 5th-year option, which makes sense because they're moving him to guard. Why would it matter, right? So now let's say Trevor Penning is good at guard, and then they give him a new contract. They're giving him guard money. So if he works out the financial windfall would be pretty impressive as well. Go from tackle money to guard money.
Like I said, this year's a year that you're trying to figure things out, and it might work out really well with the tackles. I mean, I understand why they're doing what they're doing with Banks, keeping him there because he hasn't played right tackle since high school. Flaga played it throughout his entire career until he played left tackle last year. So I understand why they did that, and I think that was the biggest thing. Look, Hunt, the rest of practice, it was essentially a 7-on-7. It was like flag football. They're getting ready for the Olympics pretty much, just watching practice. I mean, both quarterbacks looked good. One was 7 of 8, the other was 8 of 8, both making good passes down the field. But it's a learning session. They're teaching them. You're not getting much in these next few weeks. You're just getting a bunch of teaching and learning in 7-on-7.
How would you compare Rattler and Shough in terms of how they look out there? We know that Rattler's got some athleticism to him, a little whippiness in the arm. What does Shough look like next to him?
Both of them, Shough and Rattler, both got a little bit of athleticism. I think that Rattler is a little bit more athletic. He's not, obviously not as big.
Right.
I mean, Shough is like a 6'5" dude, 220. Rattler is a little bit bigger than me, who can move a little quicker. Both have solid arms. I'd give them that. They both have very solid arms. I mean, Rattler is nice. His deep balls are nice, and Shough has got a cannon on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you see both, I mean, we've seen some highlights come out from OTAs, and I think something that stands out is just how live their arm is. I mean, they are letting it rip, but we knew that coming in. That both of them had not elite level, but both of them had good arm talent, and they're showing it off. And yeah, Rattler is athletic. Shough's athletic. It's such an interesting paradox because Shough runs the 4.6, Rattler runs a 5 flat or 4.9 or whatever. But they kind of do the same thing running wise. It's not like Shough is a Lamar Jackson clone, So they're a very interesting. They're two interesting guys to be competing at the same time. Even Shough being a rookie but being a year older. Shough being 4 inches taller, but their arms kind of the same. Like it's just there are two, like the perfect two people to be competing for this position.
So, not much. The only difference I'd say he's a little bit more athletic than Shough. That's because of his frame. He's not that big, so he can move quicker, get out of a little bit of trouble a little quicker. But that's about it. I mean, I want to see this in training camp. I mean, I don't want to see 7-on-7. I want to see full team drills. I mean, 7-on-7 is it's hard to get much other than your arm strength. And
7-on-7 is where you're just looking at the arm. You're looking at where they're putting the throws, how the ball's coming out of their hands, stuff like that. That's what 7-on-7 is for.
Precise in your precise passes and how accurate you are, and how much zip you have on those passes.
The thing that fascinates me is this is theoretically like a real quarterback battle, and I'm curious how you think the two of them will handle it as far as their relationship goes. I'm not asking them to be best buds, but you think there can be some friction?
I think, I wouldn't say friction as much as it is tension. I mean, they are competing. There's no doubt about it. They are competing for the biggest prize possible. They are competing to be the starting quarterback in the New Orleans Saints, the starting quarterback in the NFL. So in any job competition, in any kind of just regular competition, like if the stakes are that high, there's going to be some tension there. And whatever. Like these two guys should be competing. It's going to make the team better. It's going to make practices better. So it is what it is. And they don't have to be best friends, and I wouldn't expect them to. I think these two guys are definitely used to it. Tyler Shough was backing up Justin Herbert at Oregon. Spencer Rattler won the Elite 11 camp. They are used to competing. They are used to winning quarterback competition. So I don't think either one of them is going to take it personal. I don't think either one of them is going to be out of their element. But, there absolutely will be that competitive fire for both.
No, I think they're both mature, and they understand it's a profession, man. They don't have to worry about I
don't think Spencer Rattler's going to be putting a whoopee cushion under Tyler Shough's chair or anything.
Friction between each other. They're both from the Chandler, Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona area. They kind of know of each other, and they've gotten a chance to become better friends in the time they've been on the field together. So no, I don't see any friction. I mean, you're not going to see the same friction we saw last year when they wanted Rattler to play over Derek Carr. You're not going to see any of that. I mean, you got good coaches, you got good players, you got good veterans. You're not going to see much of that this year. I think that ship has sailed where you see friction between quarterbacks in the quarterback room.
That's a good thing. Need to sing Kumbaya and get moving things in the right direction down there in New Orleans. Sharif Ishak, WDSU, covering the Saints. He's with us every single Tuesday. Thanks, man.
Anything and any time for you, Hunt.
Appreciate it. Sharif comes on once a week on this show. I give him 5 minutes a year, which I think is a beneficial trade for me. I appreciate him very much for making himself available each and every week. He's always with us on Tuesdays. Usually in the second hour, they got to get back out there to do some work this afternoon, so we got Sharif a little bit early today. If you're looking for your Saints coverage, you can always find it on LouisianaSports.net. Ross Jackson has a ton of coverage wall-to-wall on everything, OTAs, everything about the. He's writing some features on the veteran.
All right, there you go. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the playmakers. I mean, again, it's not Randy Moss and Chris Carter, it's not Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, but for what the Saints are doing, for what I don't think it is certainly not what it was last year. And when you look at MVS, Dante Pettis, Bub Means, and Mason Tipton as your top four. You throw Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed into the mix. No, it's not. You didn't go and get people. You didn't go and make trades or free agent acquisitions or whatever. But Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave entering that wide receiver room, and Brandon Cooks, those three guys entering that room is an enormous upgrade. So I know, it doesn't seem like it because they were already on the team, not Brandon Cooks. But I mean, those are our top three receivers. They were not there last year. So we are, in a certain way, the Saints are getting a new number one, number two, number three wide receiver, which is huge. So it's definitely an upgrade from last year, and that's all you can really do. And they didn't get to address it in the draft. It is what it is. Certain players slip, certain players fall, but I'm sure it's something they want to address in the future, potentially in free agency this year. There's still some guys out there. There's still some conversations around some free agent wide receivers, so we'll see if there's any movement. But you got to take it one step at a time, one season at a time. So I think right now, in the running back room, I think it's fine. I think Kamara and Devin Neal, all good with that. I'm cool with Juwan Johnson. Perfect world. Would we add another receiver? Yeah, perfect world. But sometimes it's not that. Offensive line, I think, is fantastic. I've got high hopes for Trevor Penning at guard. I've got high hopes for Kelvin Banks. Fuaga's the man. McCoy's the man. We know we're getting in Ruiz. So it could be a lot worse for sure. And I say that because I watched last season where it was a lot worse. All right, let me know in the comments below what you think about the wide receiver room, the playmakers, and would you add anybody? Side note, does anybody remember the TV show Playmakers on ESPN in circa 2004 or whatever it was? Unbelievable show. We'll see you in the next